Well then, since the previous videos were mainly devoted to the energetic aspects of aircraft dynamics, the natural continuation is to discuss how that energy is best accumulated. Energy gain may consist of purely kinetic energy, increasing speed while maintaining altitude, purely potential energy, increasing altitude while maintaining true airspeed, or a combination of both. We shall consider the aircraft already familiar from the previous videos. It belongs to the generation of high-energy fighters, with pronounced characteristics in the way it accumulates energy depending on speed and altitude. This chart shows a family of specific excess power curves as a function of Mach number at different altitudes. It is clearly visible that at low and medium altitudes, the optimal speed for climb remains roughly constant at about Mach 0.9. However, as altitude increases, this subsonic peak rapidly diminishes, while a second supersonic peak grows just as rapidly. Since specific excess power is the rate at which total energy increases, it is clear that somewhere between 5 and 8 kilometers, we need to move onto this supersonic peak. The only question is how to do so optimally. To assist with this, we construct a three-dimensional diagram in the coordinates of speed and altitude, where the function value is specific excess power. We take the curves from the previous graph and place them vertically onto the altitude-speed plane along their respective altitude lines. We then span a surface across them, obtaining a sort of terrain on which energy ridges and valleys can be identified. To make the analogy clearer, we color this surface conventionally and obtain the following picture. The next step is to plot on the same diagram lines of equal total energy and to interpret them as contour lines on a topographic map. It then becomes apparent that what we are looking at is simply a hill, which must be climbed optimally from the lower left corner of the diagram to the upper right. Everyday experience, common sense, and mathematics suggest that the fastest way to climb a hill is to cross the contour lines as nearly perpendicularly as possible, or, in more formal terms, along the gradient. However, this is only true if the speed at which we move along the slope is constant. Now imagine that parts of this slope are covered with perfect tarmac, others with rougher ground, and still others with loose sand, thorn bushes, and undergrowth, reducing your progress to a crawl, and that your ideal straight route runs across all of them. In that case, common sense suggests that it is better not to force one's way stubbornly along the shortest geometric path, but to choose a route that accounts for how fast one can actually move. Let us now return to the diagram and consider it as a map of the energy hill, where color indicates the speed at which one may move uphill, that is, the rate of energy gain. As explorers, we shall give names to the different surface types on this hill: the subsonic path, the transonic sand, occasionally with rather unfriendly vegetation, and the supersonic lawn. Armed with this perspective and a little common sense, we can formulate the main rules for constructing an optimal route. Climb the energy hill by staying on those parts of the surface where movement is fastest, in regions where the speed of movement depends less strongly on position. Move closer to the gradient direction, cross the sandy regions along the shortest possible path, but under no circumstances descend down the hill. The fourth rule, for various reasons, will be discussed at the end of the video. The third point can be expressed in piloting terms. The lowest energy region in terms of speed, the transonic region, is best traversed with a descent and an increase in speed, exchanging potential energy for kinetic energy without waiting to reach 11 kilometers, but instead aiming for approximate equality of PS between the subsonic and supersonic regions along a line of constant total energy. This is how the slope of the energy hill looks in 3 dimensions, with 2 trajectories plotted. The first follows the shortest geometric route, and the second the optimal one. The lighter the color of the surface, the faster one can move across it. Returning to the flat diagram, we can compare 2 possible climb strategies. It is clearly visible that the often recommended method, climbing to 11 kilometers, then accelerating through transonic flight in level flight to reach the speed of maximum specific excess power, is inferior to the route constructed according to the rules above. Acceleration to a substantial supersonic speed at 11 kilometers requires prolonged passage through the extended transonic sand, where specific excess power is low. By contrast, accelerating subsonically to 7 to 8 kilometers and then gaining speed while descending, without losing total energy, brings the aircraft rapidly onto the supersonic lawn, along which the further climb to higher energy levels proceeds more efficiently. The 3 arrows on the diagram indicate possible ways of completing the climb to the ceiling with different final speeds. To verify these intuitive conclusions based on common sense, one may perform a more rigorous mathematical analysis to determine the path that yields the fastest energy gain. Without going into the details of the method, the result can be shown directly. The noticeable angularity of the calculated line is due to the discrete altitude data and simplified interpolation. The human eye can easily draw a smoothed curve that clearly shows that common sense and strict analysis lead to similar results. Let us now return to the 2 climb profiles and test theory against practice. For this purpose, we calculate and print a small kneeboard table with the required speeds and pitch angles versus altitude. It should be noted that precise adherence to this profile is neither necessary nor, in many cases, desirable, since the loss in specific excess power due to control inputs and sustained load factor while attempting to chase the exact profile may exceed the losses caused by modest deviations from it. Let us begin. The advantage of virtual flight testing is that, to ensure identical subsonic profiles in both cases, one may take control within the track at the point where the trajectories diverge. What follows is approximately 7.5 minutes of rather pleasant music accompanying the 2 tracks. Those who are impatient, or who simply trust the scientific method, may skip ahead or watch at increased speed, but do not forget to like and subscribe so that more people can learn how to climb properly. An optimal climb is defined not by a fixed speed, but by the correct speed at each altitude, with pitch used to maintain the proper trajectory across the energy hill. This trajectory on the energy hill should not be confused with the aircraft's geometric flight path in physical space. In both cases, the aircraft reached the same altitude at the same speed, but the difference in time was approximately 20 seconds, which is by no means negligible and may well prove decisive, for instance, in determining whether an interception succeeds or whether a target is caught in time. Traditionally, following flight tests, the recorder data are analyzed. Let us follow the same practice and begin by reconstructing both flight profiles in the coordinates of the energy diagram, overlaying them on the diagram already familiar to us, and examining the outcome. The subsonic path, in its most favorable and narrowest section, was not flown perfectly. Approximately 10% was lost. However, since this portion was identical in both tests, it has no influence on the comparative result. Thereafter, the simplified profile was flown with a minor deviation from the prescribed altitude, but with an essentially ideal maintenance of level flight. The optimal profile would more accurately be described as quasi-optimal. It was not possible to remain precisely along the center of the supersonic lawn, and the deviation from the gradient direction was also noticeable. Nevertheless, even under these conditions, the time gain amounted to nearly 20 seconds. The next graph allows a direct comparison of the specific excess power for both profiles. For consistency with the energy diagram, Mach number is again used as the horizontal axis. The difference in SEP, resulting from movement along different trajectories on the energy diagram, can now be observed more clearly than through color shading alone. Finally, we consider the variation of total energy height with time. It is evident that while the climb along the simplified profile continued along the subsonic path, it initially provided a slight advantage. The optimal profile, having incurred a brief penalty while crossing the relatively narrow transonic sand, subsequently emerged onto the supersonic lawn. The arrows indicate the time intervals during which the slope of the optimal curve, that is, the SEP, was first lower and then higher than that of the simplified profile. From the energy diagram, it can be seen that losses in SEP due to deviation from the optimal trajectory ranged between 5 and 25%, which, by estimation, reduced the achievable time advantage by at least 7 to 9 seconds. To verify this, in the second track we shall take control at the moment when the supersonic energy buildup begins. That, however, will be left for the next video. For those who have watched this far, there is a small bonus. Here is a similar PS diagram for another supersonic aircraft. As can be seen, it does not differ in principle from the one already examined, and therefore an optimal climb profile may be constructed using the same method. Even without color, you should now be able to identify the characteristic PS regions and construct the optimal path. First, accelerate to the island of maximum subsonic PS. Then climb along the subsonic path. When this value decreases sufficiently that transition to the supersonic lawn becomes favorable, increase speed rapidly by descending along a line of constant energy. From there, one may either proceed to the point of maximum total energy, which lies near the point of maximum speed, or, upon reaching the line of constant energy passing through the ceiling point, quickly move along it to that point, exchanging speed for altitude. This is the promised fourth rule for reaching the ceiling as quickly as possible. If the optimal profile is compared with the simplified one, climb subsonically to 11 kilometers, then accelerate, it becomes clear that not only does the climb trajectory differ substantially from the optimal gradient-based path, but it also passes through regions of significantly lower specific power. And finally, the altitude of 11 kilometers has appeared rather frequently throughout the video. Perhaps someone can suggest why it is so special? Thank you all for watching. Ciao!